last week we were there. What is steady wisdom? And our master says that when we have intellect is steady, 1 point, and the intellect is steady on the real self, then we have steady wisdom. So when we have steady wisdom, then there is an ultimate satisfaction and happiness in our life. So there, we were there. So what is that state of the steady wisdom? Gita, our master Krishna says that steady wisdom is the highest meditative state. The steady wisdom is the highest meditative state. Here comes Anne. I was thinking about you. So this is what the steady wisdom is. Now, next question the seeker asked, how a man of steady wisdom or a person of steady wisdom, including man and women, sits, walks, talks, behaves, lives, works in personal, professional, social, and family life. That was the question. So, before going there, let us understand the relationship between objects in the world and satisfaction and happiness on the one side. Objects. These objects may be my honey, my home, my car, my objects, anything. Yeah. Now see, take an example of a car. You like a car. Liking means you give value to the car. Then mind says, I will be happy if I own the car. You can replace the car with a girl or a man or whatever you want. That is your choice. This is just an example to understand. So I own a car, I will be happy. Right? This is what happens. I will eat pasta, I'll be happy, etc., etc. We don't examine, we don't put the intellect into service. Why? Ask yourself where the happiness and satisfaction are and where the car is. Car will always remain outside. An experience of satisfaction and happiness will always remain inside. Are you getting it? Very, very subtle point to understand. Car will always remain outside. Honey will remain always outside. Whether you marry Miss Universe or Mr. Universe. To tell you frankly. Now, I'm not creating a conflict between the two, but what is the fact? The intellect never becomes aware of this. Why? That we will take later. So do you see that? Are you clear about this? Happiness and satisfaction as an experience always inside my mind. Object includes people, event, whether you celebrate your birthday, what, it always remains outside. Right? Am I clear? So when they do not meet each other, Still, the mind creates a delusion that they are meeting each other. Mind creates a wrong notion, and then the intellect is not steady. That happiness and satisfaction through the mind, because of the wrong notion, is known as pleasure, and pleasure is short lived. Did you get it, Charlie? So, this pleasure is happiness or satisfaction, which is short lived. Why they are short lived? Because they never meet. Now we are clear. They never meet. Pleasure is short lived. They appears to meet, but they never meet. Huh? You are sitting in your living room, your eyes are closed, that car is very good. Now thinking. In the thoughts, you create love for the car, and creating that love for the car gives you a pleasure, but that pleasure, which is a short lived happiness, they never meet. That is why it is short lived. You see how deeper the understanding is. So, because they never meet, I feel they meet, it is delusion. Clear? Let us move further. The impure mind reflects the happiness in objects. So, one thing we should answer clearly, after all, I like pasta, I eat pasta, I feel happy. It is my personal experience. You cannot deny it. And now you are saying that happiness is not in any object. But I feel it. Don't you feel it? Say yes or no. We feel it. So don't create a wrong notion in the mind that it means we should stop living in the world. No. Master is not saying that. So now the Master is answering how you feel that short lived happiness and satisfaction, which is known as pleasure. Mind has a liking, it has an attraction. So now, one example given by many masters, you open the main door of your house, the sun is facing you, you take a mirror, the sun rays reflects on the mirror and it enters into your house. So now the sun rays in your house, you say it is a sun ray. No doubt it is a sun ray. But is it real? It is reflection. Pleasure is only a reflection. That is why it is short lived. Did you get it? Because the element of liking is there without knowing why I like it. So the happiness inside reflects on the object, or a car, or a honey, or a pasta, or a dress, huh? Whatever you say. Did you get it? So from today, the moment mind says, I like it, or I like him, or I like her, will you become aware that the happiness is inside? It is not there outside. 90% of the problems will disappear from your life. I can tell you. Why now you say happiness is inside, satisfaction is inside. Let me express happiness with you. You build a better relationship. We are answering why, how the man of steady wisdom sits, walks, talks, lives personal, professional, social, family life. It doesn't mean that they don't live, they live it, but with a deeper sense of satisfaction and happiness inside. So we are answering the opposite at present. What is answering the opposite? That why the mind is craving for different objects for the sake of pleasure and happiness. So we have answered that happiness and satisfaction always inside my mind. Are you sure? Or it is inside, it is outside in the object? If it is outside in any object, I'm not taking any name of it. Same, for example, if the happiness and satisfaction lies or located in Miss Universe, then everyone will chase her. So it depends on liking first, and the reflection. My happiness inside reflects on the objects, and that appears as if it is giving me happiness, but that is pleasure. Pleasure is short lived. We are attracted means liking. We become a soul mate. Then we marry. We go for honeymoon. Honeymoon doesn't last forever. After a few months, soulmate becomes sourmate. It is the story of everyone in the life, whether you agree or you do not. So we are just exploring that the mind is so much obsessed with the objects, people, things, activity in the world for the sake of happiness and satisfaction. And who is the man of steady wisdom? Who is satisfied, whose intellect is holding on the real self all the time. He finds ultimate satisfaction and happiness. So the first characteristic of a person of, or you can say meditator, who has a steady wisdom, steady intellect. So intellect is steady where? On that thing which never changes. What is never changes is the real self. But we are understanding in an opposite way, that how come I forget to keep my intellect steady on my real self, so that we can easily find out where lies the problem and we can take the solution of the problem. So we use the three words. The same Master Krishna uses, that all our satisfaction and happiness in the world of objects, people, things, activities can be classified into three groups. Where the mind lives in delusion and claims that happiness and satisfaction is there. Three groups. And in Sanskrit, they are known as Rati, Trapti, Tushti. Rati means all kinds of sensual pleasure. All kinds of sensual pleasure that includes sexual pleasure, that includes you. Now you bought a beautiful bed and you have a most expensive bed sheet and you lie down. How many days pleasure? And on the second day, you have some conflict with your honey. That pleasure in the bed sheet is gone. It might have happened. I don't want to inquire. So, the first kind of happiness and satisfaction the mind claims we get by sensual pleasure. Second classification of satisfaction and happiness we get by food, taste, taste, aroma, smell, fragrance of food. You just tell me out of if there is any category of pleasure and satisfaction from the world outside, is there? There is no fourth category. That is the beauty of this journey of the Eastern wisdom. Third category is known as tushti. Tushti means accumulation of objects, possessions, wealth. Three categories. Only three categories we have. First category is rati, sensual pleasures of all kinds. Second category is the food. Oh, let us go to that restaurant. Last week I went there, it was good. You see, we always talk about this. Oh, that, yesterday you cooked very good food. Third category is accumulation, liquid cash, home, assets, whatever it is. Wherever you give value to these objects, we find a pleasure and satisfaction. I have a heart attack and I have $1 million in the bank account. What it will do? No, I don't have, but I'm just giving an example. Neither have $1 million nor I have an heart. Do you see that? Now go back to the same example. The impure mind acts like a mirror, reflects my happiness and satisfaction, which is reflected in these three categories. They are pleasure, short-lived pleasures. I do not get ultimate satisfaction and happiness in my life by these three categories. I heard about 20 years ago when I was in India that an American married 10 times. At 11th time, he went to a psychiatrist. What is the problem with all the women? Psychiatrist said, it is the problem with you. It is not the problem with the women. You see the pleasure, satisfaction. Outer pleasure and satisfaction demands a change. Change. Change means the intellect is not given any object to be steady. So, steady, unstable intellect, and the objects are constantly changing. So, you cannot have steady intellect. Steady intellect you don't have. You cannot achieve the highest state of meditation. no end of suffering, and no awakening to the permanent peace and happiness. So, if you have a question in your mind, it means we should stop eating. No, that is not I'm saying. You have the resources to go to restaurant every day without disturbing your mind. Go there. Only one thing to remember, that happiness is inside, which is being reflected in this food. You just start thinking that. Even thinking will help you raise your awareness and will not make your mind fall into delusion. Simple as well as very difficult. When you are in a restaurant, who cares what beer guy said? Let me first eat it. So that is why we need to have that awareness. Rati, Trapti, and Tushti. Physical satisfaction, palate satisfaction, satisfaction by possession. We enjoy, we feel happy and satisfied. Why? I have a big house. Luckily, I'm a homeless guy, so I'm very happy. The one woman said, please don't say that. This is a bad omen. Never say that you are going to die, but it is definite that you are going to die. We create all kinds of illusions. So now see that once I live in awareness towards these three categories of so called seeking satisfaction and happiness, then this mind will become free. The impurity will be gone, and then the intellect comes in the front, and that intellect can think wisely that happiness and satisfaction is always inside me. And Master says that it comes from the real self, where his real self is the pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is independent. Because it is independent, hence it is unchanging reality. It is independent. See the words. Independent because it is independent, it is unchanging. Or you can say it is unchanging reality. That is why it is independent. It does not depend on any object. But the mind creates the dependence because of liking and disliking. That causes pleasure. That pleasure is short lived. Actually, pleasure is not there in anything outside. Are you clear? You all are wise people. Whether you talk of Whether you talk of sexual pleasure, food, you can easily assess and observe and understand the pleasure is not there. It is a reflection. It is a reflection. So, for having a reflection, the mirror has to be clear. So, here the mind has to like an object to have a reflection of pleasure. Can you have a pleasure when you say you hate this beer guy? You will stop coming to the session. So simple. You see that? So what are those factors in the mind that reflects the pleasure satisfaction outside causes the delusion, which is a short-term happiness, and we get carried away by that. First is liking. Second is the mood of the mind. If the mood is upset, even if you like, you won't get pleasure. Do you see? It, uh, pick up any category. Honey, can you go to the restaurant? No, I'm not in a mood today. No, I feel headache. Okay, we'll go to tomorrow. Done, finished. So, what the master is saying, I'm coming to that point. Steady intellect. No question of mood is there or mood is upset. Question is not whether you like or dislike. Question is not there of duality and a conflict. It is clear. It is 100% clear that satisfaction and happiness, they are within me. They are the state of the mind and the consciousness. The remote cannot have the state of pleasure and happiness. Like food, like car. Now you have that wisdom living in your mind all the time. Just imagine that wisdom is living in your mind all the time. Will your mind be wandering here and there? It is wandering because it is searching pleasure and happiness outside. Pick up all the thoughts from waking state, from the moment you wake up until you sleep. So, what Master is saying, when you are, do you remember, when you are happy and satisfied by yourself, to yourself, for yourself, it is self satisfaction, but this self is the real self. This self is not the ego self. Ego self is different from the real self. Ego self means all the three categories. Huh? Rati, Prakti, Tushti. Last example, you have to think of it so that you can, next week, you are already in the uh, steady wisdom. What kind of object that gives you pleasure and satisfaction in deep sleep? Body is not there, so outer satisfaction is no question. Mind is not there, outer satisfaction is not there. The moment you wake up, you say, I had a very fresh, I was so happy to have a deep relaxation. So our master says, in deep sleep, when you transcended the body and the mind, or the mind was absorbed into the real self. Because the real self is of the nature of ultimate happiness, when you woke up, you recall the memory. When you say, I had a very sound, refreshing sleep and I was very happy. So it's a memory. During sleep, you cannot retrieve that memory because you are not conscious. So when you wake up, the mind recalls the memory of that happy sleep. So in that deep sleep, you were not in contact with any object. That is for sure. So the first, the man, what are his attitudes? What is the state of the intellect? Whose intellect is steady, who lives in steady wisdom, means he is satisfied in real self, he is satisfied by the real self, he is satisfied for the real self. Why? Real self is permanent peace, happiness, love, and wisdom. How to approach? To approach, to pick the mind, to become aware. Mind, where are you going? Which pleasure? By the intellect, by observation, internal awareness. So your intellect can play with the mind from today. Plus, regular practice of meditation. So let us start our practice of meditation.